So to kick off the presentation, I just wanted to give you an overview of the Tree Steward program. So we'll do a quick overview, and I will present that, and then I have 4 of our community leads that will each be describing a bit about the work that they do, which is awesome. So again, my name is Sonia Tossison. I work at the University of Minnesota in the Urban Forestry Outreach and Research Lab. We are housed on the St. Paul campus. I work alongside some really wonderful folks. And as part of my role, I direct the Tree Steward program from the university side in partnership with local communities around the state. So let's kick it off here. Here's a little bit about our team at the University of Minnesota. Brian Murphy, that's me, Marissa and Dan. We also have a number of graduate and undergraduate assistants with us. And we have a tree care nursery out there. You'll see it on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. Yes, so our volunteer programs are all about helping people help their communities and helping trees and healthy canopy cover. We advocate around the states, and we have 2 major programs for volunteers, one of which we'll talk about today, Tree Stewards, and then the other is Tree Care Advisors. Next slide, please. Awesome. So Tree Stewards, at a glance, you can kind of see from the map on the right there is locations of where we have current Tree Steward programs or ones that are paused or that we've done in the past. And we really work with municipalities to help them increase the capacity of their either the teams that they have doing tree work on the ground, or maybe they don't have teams. So we really help fill those gaps, whether that's planting trees, pruning trees, young trees, checking mulch. We do it trainings. We onboard everybody. We have a full day training, which is really fun, indoor, outdoor parts. And then we help the community lead to organize various events throughout the years. We hope that they do that and get people really excited about trees. Next slide, please. Cool. And I won't go through everything on this slide. Most of you in the tree care world know some of these facts by heart, maybe. So trees really interact with communities in magical ways, and they can help you manage stormwater, they can bring in wildlife, they can help increase home values. I always like to point the one out too, like where it's shaded, people tend to spend more money too. And you're like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense when I look at the places I spend money when I have it. So these are some of the ways that we can help as a Tree Steward community leads or as myself as the U Connection to make a difference. Next slide, please. Awesome. So we can train Tree Steward volunteers in a number of different things. One thing that's really nice about this program is it is tailored to the community that wants to host the program. These can include, you can just click along here, Karen. So I mentioned properly planting. So looking for stem girdling roots, box cutting, not planting too deep, those things like that. Bare root maybe versus container. B&B usually isn't with volunteers, but they always like to stand along and watch. And then properly pruning your young trees. So those that you can easily get from on the ground with the hand pruners typically. And then, yeah, you can click through. Pruning sprouts and suckers, we all know those can be a major issue for sightlines, and they're one of the most common things like, oh, my tree, it's dying or something like that. So we can help have teams on the ground to help those. And then your city workers, if you have tree workers, they don't have to spend their time doing that. They can do higher up work in more complex projects. Watering devices, that's also really helpful. We all know that once you plant a tree, you hopefully don't just leave it behind. They are living, growing beings. So having a watering team in place to help you, especially during these last few years and what looks to be maybe this year as well, the drought. Sorry, maybe the snow last night really helped. Let's pretend. Sorry, I'm usually positive. And then, yeah, installing watering devices and some identification. And we always like to play nicely with the professionals. So, we understand we're not certified arborists, we're not trained in that way, but we can help and point out when maybe we need to connect with one. Cool. Yes, and same with trees of concern and reporting trees. Okay, so if you are a community lead, such as some of those you'll hear from, kind of the first steps is connecting with me and our team at the U to chat and see how your tree goals could be helped by a volunteer group. You'll reach out to us, we kind of chat, and we'll get going. And then the next step would be host an initial training. So this is typically 5 or 6 hours on a Saturday or during the week, depending. And we spend about 2 to 3 hours doing presentations tailored to best planting practices or young pruning or tree identification. And then we take a break for lunch, and then we go outside and we do some hands-on work. And then we'll work with you to see who went through that training, who's really interested, and we'll get you that group. Then we do a quick assessment to make sure that your volunteers were following along. It's nothing huge, it's open book. People can take it multiple times just to kind of get those key factors. You can click through. Oh, and then you host your first volunteer event, which is awesome. We're onboarding 1 or 2 communities this year, so it's pretty exciting to see this grow. And then your volunteers will log their hours and kind of as they go along, and then they can renew every 3 years, or if they're always current and up to date, depending on your needs, you can keep them all up to date on the latest in tree care news. Oh yeah, and we do update trainings as well every couple of years, and we can onboard new folks and refresh what they've already learned. Ooh. Awesome, thank you, Karen. From a volunteer's perspective, like I said, you have that initial training, and then you'll take a short assessment. Again, open book. It's pretty. We don't like to create barriers, but we want to make sure and check some core knowledge. You get your certificate, membership card, and you're part of your group. And then you'll start volunteering. Again, maybe a couple events. Some communities, they do it all together. Some do it in small groups or independently, whatever your city feels comfortable with. And then you will submit your hours. We really rely on hours to keep the grants going. It's, I think, something cool like $33 or something is what 1 hour of volunteerism in Minnesota is equivalent to. So that's pretty amazing. And then recertify just to make sure you're staying up to date. Cool. So this is some of the success from last year. That is not just our tree steward program, that also includes our tree care advisors, but we had almost 4,100 hours logged and $140,000. And these are some ways that we find the most common impactful avenues that our volunteers help with. So healthier trees, safer streets, really, again, an enhanced budget for the cities because they have this knowledgeable group on the ground that can handle some of those basic things or things that, maybe wouldn't get done, but help maintain that tree health with watering over time, mulch checking, things like that, and boosted social connection. So people that like trees tend to really like trees in my experience. And so they really are passionate about this and excited. And then we're hoping to just make sure that everybody has access to healthy canopies and parks and gets to enjoy the wonderful aspect of trees. Cool. Here's a few websites that connect us with our program. Also the U4, which is the Urban Forestry Outreach and Research Lab. And we are graciously funded through the USDA Forest Service and the Minnesota DNR, as well as our partner organizations that put in a lot of work too. And I think that's everything for me. We'll get started. So I have a number of community representatives that will be presenting today. The first one will be Claudia from Ely, but just a quick shout out before that to a few people that couldn't make it. Jason Ludvigson and our friends down in La Crescent. They started in the fall of 2022, and they have a wonderful cohort, and they just got one of the relief grants. So that's really exciting. And Sue Granger and her team over there in Morris just celebrated 6 years. So they're one of our longest running programs, which are pretty amazing and incredible, and have done a lot of work advocating. And then our Newport team are doing absolutely fabulous work. And hopefully this year we'll be expanding and we'll be creating a Washington countywide program that includes those volunteers. So pretty awesome and wonderful stuff we're accomplishing together. So I will allow Claudia, you'd like to share your screen. You can get started.
Hello, everybody from Ely, way up north. I'm really happy to be here and to share some of what has been happening with me up here with my work with Tree Steward. Ely is a really unique community, rich in history. Population is about 3,000 people, and it's the hub of a really interesting community involving mining, logging, and tourism. And it's located next to a major wilderness entry into the Boundary Waters canoe area. It's the location of the International Wolf Center and the North American Bear Center. It's the hometown of Sigurd Olson, an American writer, environmentalist, and advocate for the protection of wilderness. And there's just so much more to Ely I could talk about. It's just a wonderful community. But obviously, trees are very important here. Part of the tree stewardship work here involves tree planting, tree care, pruning and reduction of the boulevard trees. And I have to say, if it wasn't for the tree steward that helps me, I would have never been able to accomplish the task. And as a result of her work, we were able to completely prune and do reduction of all of the trees in Ely this last season. So really, really grateful. We also have been working on invasive species like buckthorn, also getting help on relocating a gravel bed that has been dormant, and we're going to get that ready and going next year. Also, the word is getting out that we're around, and so we're helping with pruning and tree care at local businesses that are opening up, and they want to have their grounds looking better. Participation in monthly meetings with the City of Ely Tree Board. We actually have our bona fide Ely Tree Board here, so it is important. Tree care and consultations with Ely residents. They're starting to call in and ask for help on their properties. Yearly tree pruning class, of course, with Sonia. Couldn't miss that. It's been very successful. And we hold it at the Minnesota North Campus, so students are involved as well as the residents from the area. We also have our annual Arbor Day Tree City USA event. We get help with that. And we have a mulching day event. The most important next step for me is educating the residents in the area about their emerald ash borer. Unlike other areas south of us, emerald ash borer has not been affected in this area quite as much as those areas south of us, like Duluth, and areas south of that. But it's really important to begin now. And so we've got plans with getting together door hangers and utilizing social media and providing some presentations at the local Boundary Waters Connect group, which is the Economic and Community Task Force of Northeastern Minnesotans for Wilderness. I think what's really important for my work up here in Ely is also the consistency of letting the community, the residents, the business people, everyone know that the tree stewards are here, that we are the face in the town that people can call and contact. I think that's going to be key as far as anything we do going forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claudia. Yes, you're getting applause in this room.
Well, I hope that provided information that you were interested in, and if there's any questions, obviously, I'm happy to answer them afterwards.
Awesome. Yes, thank you very much. Well, next up we have Shane DeGroy from Hennepin County.
I wait for all the applause. I'm Shane DeGroy. I'm the senior forester with Hennepin County, and I'm also the volunteer coordinator for the county's forestry program. Tree Stewards runs very similar to Sonia described with the county, except a little bit different because being a county, we have a larger geographic area. So it's key that we partner with a lot of cities within the county. So typically we'll find a city, we'll say, are you interested in the Tree Stewards program? Or maybe they approached us, or sometimes a resident reaches out to both of us and they'll say, we would like to do a class. Sonia and I will teach together. It's about 70-30. I think Sonia pulls most of the weight with that. But the city provides the venue and does a lot of the outreach because they cast a more narrow focused net than the county does with their social media. Then the idea of partnering with the cities is that we can have a volunteer base that's educated and willing to go out and engage in some volunteer opportunities that both the county and the city can call upon. So here's an example of a tree planting we did. This one, unfortunately, it rained all day. This was in Edina last year, so we are soaked, but our volunteers stuck through to the very end. People kind of left off as we were nearing the end, but Veronica stuck through until the very end, so I share this a lot. She's our superstar volunteer, but we always try to plan one big volunteer opportunity, maybe within a month of having the class, just to keep them engaged right after they've taken the class. But the county can only do one really big planting in the spring and then in the fall, because we've tried to find different areas in the county, and just by nature of, we don't have a lot of land besides county roadsides, and there aren't that many where it makes sense to get a lot of volunteers out there on the side of a busy road. So we then call upon the cities. They have a lot more park space, good places to plant trees. So this was one of the ones we did last year, right after our class with Edina. But we've had classes in St. Anthony Village. We have one coming up in Minnetonka, Minneapolis, of course, Hopkins, Plymouth. So each year we try to bounce around a little bit to keep it geographically even. So this was right after our class in St. Anthony Village. We had a class in the fall and then a tree planting. And the tree steward said, hey, we really want to prune these trees. There was trees along a county road right of way in St. Anthony and also in front of their city hall. So it was a mix of city and county owned trees. They said it's hard for the people at the church to mow under these trees. It's hard for us when we're at the bus stop to see the buses coming. So I went out and we did a pruning workshop together. I provided the materials and direction. Got a lot of great hands-on pruning because we didn't cover that as much during the class. And then the city was graceful and enough to take all the branches that we had trimmed. We left them in a few piles and they took them with them. So I've done a survey with my tree stewards and said, what do you like about it? What could we be doing differently? And there were a lot of them that said they really loved the program, but they wanted some more opportunities that weren't so physical, didn't involve them working a shovel, that kind of thing. And while I do have some tree stewards that are just kind of, group leads, make sure people aren't planting too deeply, things like that. We pivoted and created some more volunteer opportunities. We do have a lot of senior citizens who are interested in the Tree Stewards program. So this is obviously not them. This is a picture of me at the Share the River Gorge event in Minneapolis. But the following year, I had two of my elite tree stewards do the tabling and provide education and outreach there. The keen-eyed among you may detect that this is a staged photo as we're all very happy and smiling as I'm delivering some pretty devastating news about the emerald ash borer. But I'm sure the tree stewards delivered it with the bleak grimness that the topic requires. Next one. You remember this picture? This was all over our marketing outreach for a while. This is just one of the plantings we did after our South Minneapolis class. So this is a planting along Hiawatha 55 in Minneapolis. But I'm using this one because we started a program called Adopt a Tree, where tree stewards could sign up to really adopt a corridor, but it doesn't sound as good as adopting a tree. And they could find a planting near where they live, and once a month, take a stroll down it, then either on their phone or home on their computer, they could select any of the trees and say, this one requires mulching, or this one had some vandalism. I use this picture because it wasn't this tree, but the next one over, got hit by a car, and they notified me and we were able to go and take it out the next day. Whereas otherwise it could be several weeks before people realize, it's a state road in Minneapolis, but the county's maintaining it, who's actually responsible for it. So we did pivot to find some less physical ways that they can still get out there and do some volunteering for us. And that's the overview of what it's like with Hennepin County.
I do have a question in the chat.
Oh, question in the chat while this is
Coming from our friends at Great River Greening. Can you talk about permission seeking from city in county to have volunteers pruning city or county trees. Followed up with the question, in theory, the city is liable for their well-being, and I'm wondering if cities at time are hesitant about volunteers doing this work, i.e. what if the volunteers actually accidentally injure the tree?
Yeah, so those are lots of great questions in there. I will say each community is unique. We do have folks sign a waiver. So I know maybe this wasn't part of that question, but we do have folks sign a waiver from the University of Minnesota, and the city or the county also does. We do talk a bit about tailoring it to the city's needs. A lot about that. Some cities are not able to engage tree stewards in, like, maybe it's pruning because they have a union, and the union workers are really, we don't want help. We want to handle it, and we like to play nice. So, but we can find other ways that the tree stewards maybe do tabling events, or maybe they do more Arbor Day plantings, or things that are more community centric versus labor work centric. The question about, if they injure a tree, I'd have to go into that. I haven't experienced that aspect of Shane. Oh, you're
Hasn't come up, they're too good.
Yeah, Shane says it hasn't come up. They're too good. So we haven't encountered that. They are an asset, like any volunteers. They once they're trained, they try very hard, and I haven't honestly come up with that. I think that would be on a case by case basis, though.
No basil pruning allowed.
No basil pruning allowed. Yeah, and no weed whackers alatus. Or they don't use weed whackers, but typically they care a lot, and they aren't the ones injuring trees. They're usually attending to or witnessing that happening. But that's a great question. Maybe I could talk one-on-one on more specifics. It's a big topic. Next up, we'll have Luther Overholt, who is a forester with Edina, so within Hennepin County, but they are at the city level. So Luther, if you'd like to share your screen.
All right. Yeah, last year was my the first tree steward class the city hosted, and it was with Sonia and Shane. I think my favorite part about it is just the engagement you get with your residents. When you do this, they do care. It's something they're interested in, and they're taking their own time to go and learn about the way to properly maintain trees. I can kind of speak to that question though about, what if they injure a tree and stuff like that. And I think, part of it is you have that open and clear communication with them. And so, after the class, it's not like, all right, go trim whatever tree you want, go at it. It's, let me know if you see something, get in contact with me, and, I'll give you the approval before you go and do anything like that. In Edina, I don't really have many volunteers to begin with. It's usually very difficult to get people to volunteer for stuff in Edina, and so this was nice just because I had those interested parties that were there that are looking for that opportunity. And then I believe one of the participants, she's actually on our my Energy and Environmental Commission, and so she's on one of the commissions we have that is focused on trees and the environment, and so it was nice to be able to engage with her. And then she was able to kind of share that with the rest of the commissioners, who all report to city council. And so just like I think the engagement with those interested residents was one of the biggest benefits. And now too, they're not, at least mine aren't always out, looking for stuff. We'll be in contact a couple times a year. My big one's always my Arbor Day celebration. They always do that. And then I found kind of there are other areas of interest end up being, the parks that are adjacent to their house or closest to their neighborhood that they walk. And so that's where I have, had them actually go and do pruning and do tree maintenance for me. And a lot of times it's stuff that, I don't know, like root sprouts are kind of one of my pet peeves. And so it's not like the funnest thing to go and just prune all of like the, branches coming out of the base of the tree, but that's always a good one, for them to do. And then, two, I think during the class, I came towards the later portion of the class for when we went out and did the active pruning after. And so, kind of able to show them what I like and how I'd like it done. And so that was one of the other benefits of, being there, is being able to actually do that hands-on portion with them and kind of, quiz them first. We all look at a tree and then kind of, what would you do? Here's what I would do. This is why I would do it. And here are the things I'm looking for, stuff that's, lower than 8 feet over a sidewalk, or if you see any, already damaged or broken branches or rubbing branches, stuff like that, you want to try and get ahead of. Same, I guess I don't think I really talked about co-dominant stems as much, but I think that's one that with, at the class I didn't talk about, but now with one of my more active tree stewards, I've met with her at the park close to her house, and we've gone over and talked about that. And now, that I've shown her that, I trust that she knows, exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about co-dominant stems or co-dominant, leaders. And it's also been very helpful this over the past 2 years. We planted over 1,000 new trees in Edina, and so that's a lot of maintenance. And it's nice to have just a couple of those parks that I've planted in. We usually do, 20 to 30 trees at each one. My tree stewards are taking care of those now. And so that's just, 2 extra spots where, I know I still have to go maybe look at it, once a year, but it's not something that I know needs immediate attention. And same when you either have, damaged trees or ones that end up not making it. It's always nice to have an extra set of eyes that knows what they're looking for out there in the community that, can let you know. And then, I know I'm not going out there to find something that's, still alive, or just, someone that doesn't know what they're doing might think, has issues, but the tree stewards with that training, it really kind of allows you to have, just an extra set of eyes out there as well, which is always very beneficial. I know we probably all have more parks and trees than we can manage, and so just having that group of informed residents that care about trees as well has been great. And I guess I wasn't really sure what to expect, or how many people were there. And like I said, I don't really have many volunteers, and I think I don't know, there are almost maybe 10 people in the class, and I believe about half of them were from Edina. And so that's kind of the other thing that happens is, once you have these classes and they start telling other people, you'll end up getting some residents or from other communities that are just interested in the program because they'd finally heard about it, because, not everyone knows. And I think that word of mouth really helps. And so it was nice to have kind of that mix of, residents from adjacent communities and my own. And, you can, after that though, it was nice making connections with those other residents from, I think there were some from Hopkins and Eden Prairie, and, just letting them know about all the events that we do, and, being able to get that kind of extra help and have some more volunteers for some of our bigger planting projects and programs that we've been doing. And we've been trying to increase that every year now. And I don't, really foresee us stopping or slowing down. And so, I know in the next, year or two, we'll probably be looking to host another class, and try and get more of our residents out there that are trained and know what they're doing when, they're just doing minor pruning and that tree maintenance that kind of gets overlooked as you get busy with other stuff. And so I'd say overall, it's nice to, make those connections and then, keep up with them and then, kind of see how it grows, and just by word of mouth with the small group that it starts with. And two, I think, trees are becoming, I don't know, they're becoming cool. People are becoming more interested in it. And so, it's something too that I used to never have any volunteers at any of my events. And now, we're getting more and more every year. And so this is just another, good thing to mention at the beginning of the events as well. Most of the time I never really know what to talk about when, at Arbor Day and stuff like that, or what people, want to hear. But I think this is another great just program to highlight as you're kind of going over, some of your own, just tree stuff with your residents. And for those that are interested, and they're usually the ones that show up at those kind of events, this is just a great way to, get them that little extra education that they're looking for. And, a lot of them too, they use it around their own home and helps them with, maintenance on just their own, their own personal property and stuff as well. But yeah, thank you. And yeah, definitely I'll stick around and more than happy to answer any questions at the end.
Yeah, I know it's really fun, and like Luther, and I think you got it from everybody. It's really tailored to each community and what you'd like, and what your residents, also like what the volunteers are most interested in and feel comfortable with. And yeah, they'll bring people in, and they'll get new volunteers, and then it grows, and then some people move, so then you do lose a couple, and then but you get this cohort, and it's pretty fun. And like Luther mentioned, yeah, people will also then bring the knowledge to their personal spaces or tell friends, and so it's really cool to see that transfer of knowledge and excitement. All right.
If I can interrupt for a moment, we have a question in the chat.
So we'll try and repeat it this time.
Coming from Danny over at MPRB. To Shane, wondering, when a tree steward does a survey on an area, how do you relay that data to the organization responsible for the trees?
Good question. So for us, it was dependent on who actually owned the trees in an area. We did have one that was the planting we did in the city of Medicine Lake. So those were on 3 different parcels, all city owned, but we had a resident from the Plymouth Tree Stewards class who resided in Medicine Lake, and she adopted those because they were just outside her door. So if there were any issues with those, the system would always send everything to me, and if it was something that I should bring to the attention, I would just forward it on to the city Public Works, for example, for Medicine Lake, because they don't have a dedicated forester. But it would just be on me to forward the particular ones.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, and that kind of points to also, so this is the tree steward program as a whole is a statewide program, but you can really tailor it because somewhere like Medicine Lake and Minneapolis and Washington County are all, yes, within Minnesota, but very different. And so we like to work with your unique situations and really, once the training's over, empower you to make opportunities and make those headways into tree care. Cool, awesome. Well, our last presenter will be Leland Hatcher from St. Paul.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Leland Hatcher. I'm an urban forestry technician with the city of St. Paul. And I just took over tree stewards as of just last year. I think St. Paul has been involved in this current iteration of tree stewards since 2018, I believe. I think maybe Sonia would know better if that is information she has. But here, I'll just jump right in here. So our tree stewards are all residents of the city of St. Paul. And here's some pictures of them here pruning in a city event. And then there's some training here going on the other side of this other picture. I think a good amount of the people that are with us have been with us for 5 or 6 years, maybe, or yeah, something like that. We have a lot of new people that showed up this most recent year. I think maybe you got like another 8 people. So we currently have a active roster of maybe somewhere in the 30 people range. I think it might be a few less because a couple of people have dropped out recently or just haven't been able to participate. So we do have a large group of people to pull through. The work that we typically do is a small pruning for trees that have been planted within the last like 3 to 5 years, unless we find some areas where they are larger or smaller that are planted older and we can still prune. We don't like to have them do much above their head type work or any sort of structural pruning unless it's on smaller stuff. We will do primarily with the small trees, a lot of sidewalk and road clearance. So we can really maximize the safety on that. A lot of the stewards always ask if they could do deadwood. It's something that they like to do. And then the basil sprouts and suckers, everyone's always getting those, which is great on some of our larger lindens. As everyone knows, those can spring up pretty good every year. And then we'll do planting and mulching events as well. We haven't had a planting event this year, except with the exception of our Arbor Day event, which is usually tailored towards a certain community within the city of St. Paul. But a lot of our tree stewards like to come to those and help out, which is more than welcome. Let's see. And then, so like I said, our volunteer events will have planting, mulching events. We'll do the Arbor Day. And then typically what we'll do is we'll hold pruning events in the summer bi-monthly. Those are usually 1 to 2 hours in length. And then this winter, we actually allowed people to come prune, and we held those once a month just because of sunlight restrictions. But then on average, we have around 10 volunteers per event. And here you can see kind of a skew of all of our events and how many people we had, with the exception of June. June was our training event, so that's a lot of people were required to come to that one. So we had the highest participation. But outside of that, we do pretty well. Everyone's pretty active that shows up. We get a lot of the same people showing up every single time, which is nice. So you can kind of get to the point where we rely on we have a certain dependability of experience coming in. So yeah, in 23, we held 9 events with the 1 training. Our total volunteer hours from our stewards was 206.5 hours there. And we were able to prune just around 600 trees citywide. It helps that we can do full city blocks or parkways, so we can really kind of cook through a lot of trees if we get a good turnout on our events, which is great because a lot of times we do focus on parkways or city streets that were replanted, especially now that we have more continuous blocks of replanting with the emerald ash borer wrapping up here. We have large blocks of trees that are replanted within the last, between like the last 5 years and now. So a lot of opportunities for smaller tree prunings there. Here's some more pictures. Some great shots of fall, winter, and summer pruning. And then, oh yeah, I asked some of our stewards to provide some quotes, basically explaining like what the stewards program means to them, and then what they see it representing in the residents around or the city that they're working in. And one of my favorites here was from Dan and Jenny. They're very active in tree stewards. They come almost every event unless they're not available. And I'll just read that one off for anyone that maybe can't see it. It says the tree stewards program plays a modest but meaningful role in helping the city make good on its responsibility to provide trees, green space, shade, beauty, and a healthy and safe environment for us all, which I felt like really kind of captured what we were after, involving people, getting everyone to be just more conscious of green space and trees overall. So yeah, and then again, so Leland, if you ever need anything or want to have any questions, I'm always available, or mostly available. Yeah, that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Leland. Wow, I love those quotes.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I think I have a copy of your slides, so.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think we're going to probably add some of these to the website. I got a lot more feedback than I was expecting. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I know. I love it. I just want to say a big thank you to everybody. And if you're interested in the volunteer programs or learning more, you can find that out at our website, which Marissa, if you put it in the chat, it's mntca.umn.edu. So the Minnesota Tree Care Advocate Program. And that is both our programs. So the Tree Steward program and our Tree Care Advisor program, which is a more in-depth individual volunteer program. So, have a beautiful winter day. For those of you that are in the Twin Cities, at least, we got a good snowfall and excited to see that. And hopefully it'll be good for our water systems and our trees this year. So thank you very much.
I've got a quick question for Shane, if I may. Hey, I'm just curious in terms of the adaptive tree program for reporting, for community members, residents who want to report in, what do you use, like a Microsoft Forms or an app? What's the infrastructure used to help people do that?
It was a website created by Hennepin County's Public Works IT team. So I'm not sure, except that it used to be The back end was from eGov, but it's down right now as they transition to a different back end. I'm not familiar which one though, but it was totally created from scratch.
And did that seem to work well?
It did work pretty well. We had our whole tree inventory also in eGov, so we were able to pull that layer from it. So we did have the individual trees overlaid on a map, so they could click on trees. And then instead of all the inventory information coming up, it was just a series of few drop downs, like, oh, needs mulch, needs watering.
Yeah. And if they're interacting with that sort of map of all the trees, that means that map of trees exists somewhere. Is that coming from the Department of Public Works, from the county, from the city? Because there needs to be somewhat of a robust map out there for something like that to work.
No, we do inventory all the trees we plant. So we have an internal tree inventory, and then this is just
okay, so it's
a layer
internal
based off of that.
Okay, and so in this case, it's the individual trees that you all have happened to plant and therefore internally inventoried. This isn't all trees everywhere across, say, the metro.
Correct. This is the newly
Minnesota.
planted trees starting from 2017, I believe.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Very cool.
I know that Valerie's on the line there. I thought that there was some intention to have any surveys or inventories that were funded through DNR funding, have that inventory data go to the DNR, similar to what they have in Wisconsin. Am I imagining things, Valerie?
So we have been accepting or requesting shapefile data for when we're doing inventories or even just for the tree plantings or removals or things like that. The bigger thing that is that we're working on, honestly, is because we're redoing the rapid assessment that had been done in 2010. That's the data that we're more actively working to make public once that's solidified. So that should cover like 250 to 300 communities throughout the state. And that but it is a statistical sampling and it does cover public and private property. So we're figuring out the best way to really communicate that information.
Could that be coupled with the urban FIA data?
No. Yeah, they don't.
Just
they don't
making it all to sit in one spot.
I know.
I know, because urban, yeah, I mean, the Forest Service owns the urban FIA data officially. So they're the ones who are going to be putting it onto My Cities Trees. So it'll be under that purview. How they're going to, I mean, really the only way that they've done it so far for My Cities Trees is, done by city.
Right.
And it's only like a major metropolitan community. We did a statewide version, so we have a more robust data access, but they actually haven't figured out how they're gonna portray it yet. So
thanks, Valerie. Sorry to put you on the spot there.
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, it's just because the data was collected in two different ways. Like we're gonna have the data, like we'll have a page that's like, here's the different ways you can look at it, and here are each of their limitations and the opportunities that we kind of see with them, or the strengths and how the data was collected. But each set is different, and so we don't want to. I don't know. I don't know if it'll make sense to overlay, honestly. But
thanks, Valerie.